We're here at the Carolina Association event, and I'm doing some of these Facebook Live videos. So first off, I want to know if they're valuable. So comment below if you're liking these videos, and we'll try to do more of them when we go out to these events. And second, I have Donna here. She is one of the earliest members of this group, probably joining. There's only about 20 members, so I've really been involved with helping grow this Facebook group and providing some great information. So the reason I grabbed her is she has literally been sitting on panels for the last 2 days talking about stuff. So if you're, remember we were talking about going to an association event? Well, I'm bringing an association event to you here on Facebook. So Donna, I appreciate the time, and go ahead and share with them what you do and your expertise in the market.
Well, thanks, Mark, for inviting us. I'm with CampgroundAccounting.com, and we work with campground owners all across the country to help them grow their businesses and to minimize the impact of taxes.
So grow their business. So you provide accounting services that helps them operate the park, right? So should they be experts in QuickBooks when they work with you?
No, we don't even use QuickBooks. So there's no need to even learn what that is.
You don't use QuickBooks?
No.
Okay, so that's going to be question one.
Right.
What accounting software should I have for my RV park?
Well, I want you to think about the tools that are used to earn you money.
Okay.
And I don't really care what kind of tools you use, but in our world, we use Xero accounting software.
Accounting software?
Yes,
okay.
Xero.
Okay.
And Xero helps because it is a software that was built in the cloud, and it works in the cloud, and it allows us to connect direct to your bank account and really get those transactions pulling in automatically, because I don't want to spend my time recording transactions. I want to help business owners really get to the bottom line of how to take that data and use it to grow their businesses and minimize taxes.
Okay, so when you're doing, so I'll be honest with you, I'm a dummy on finance, all right? So I'm probably a good person to interview because I know nothing about this topic. So it's kind of a lie. I have an MBA, so I've read some stuff, but I'm not an expert on finance. So when you're interacting with a park in your role, you're handling, like when they have somebody check in, right, at the park, how do you know that? And how do you account for it, and how does that work?
Well, first I know because cash hits their bank account, hopefully.
Okay.
Okay. And secondly, I know we hook into the point of sale system to get reports as well to help them analyze how things are going, to look at things like how they're pricing, what their occupancy levels are. We do a lot more than just the debits and credits that traditional accountants have handled for them.
Interesting.
We're looking at trying to make their whole operation work towards the bottom line of earning more profit and growing the business.
So you're not just assembling it and giving it a number. So you're actually saying, hey, we're noticing that your occupancy is a bit low.
Right. Because we work with campgrounds across the country, we know a lot about their industry standards and about key performance indicators they should be watching. So when I see one of those go out of whack, I'm the first one to say, hey, what's going on with this? Or if they did something great, let's figure out what it is so we can keep doing it or replicate that.
Interesting. So what would be key performance indicators a park operator should consider? Like if you had a list of the top 5 or whatever those are, what numbers should they have, and how often should they be looking at that?
Well, the biggest one they all need to look at and know intimately is profit. Net profit is the driver of everything else. If you don't have that, you've got a lot of issues for you.
How should they break that net profit down on like an annual scale, or should they be breaking it down to some incremental level, like per guest or per site, or how should they look at that?
All of the above. Yeah, we want to look at it on the annual level because that gives us a capacity of what that business is doing, and then we can look at what the improvements could be and decide how much more that could affect the bottom line. But by looking at the more detailed things like the average per guest or the occupancy ratings, that tells us what capacity we have to grow even more.
So, and you can help do that. So let's assume somebody, they're like, nah, I don't need her help. I can do this on my own. How can they do it on their own? What should they do to be able to try to do this on their own?
Well, you've got to have a lot of knowledge.
Okay.
It's very difficult for somebody to be the jack of all trades. Yeah. We all have our specialties in different areas, but it's kind of like saying, should I do without a lawyer? In a lot of cases, you can. Doesn't mean you should.
What's that old saying? Only a fool represents himself, or something like that? Is that what it is?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so key performance indicators, you've given us those. software you recommend this Zero, spelled with an X, so I call it XO, or like Xerox. It's like Xerox. I'm surprised Xerox hasn't been sued them over this, because all they did is remove an X from the name. But anyways, so Zero is the software over QuickBooks. Why would you, is the reason you're using that because it's cloud-based? Is that why you recommend it, or is there other advantages that they could consider if they want to try to do this on, if they're doing it on their own, if they're doing it on their own?
Right.
Would you still recommend that software over QuickBooks?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I was a QuickBooks Pro advisor for many, many years. And one of the problems that I saw was this is a software that was developed as a desktop version, and then they tried to convert it to be a cloud-based software. It's tough to convert things. And the advantage for Xero is that it was always built in the cloud for the cloud. And I think it streamlines a lot of things that confuse people. So I honestly get a lot of good feedback from people who see Xero and they say, wow, this is really clean and awesome looking.
Oh,
it's easy to find things.
Oh.
So we believe it's a better tool. It's a better tool for me because it allows me to connect to a lot more applications to get detailed analysis that we need to help our park owners. And we believe it provides a little cleaner benefit to our customers. They can even use their app on their phone, iPads, anywhere they're at. They access all the data and the tools that we provide.
Wow, okay, so that's a good answer. So then the next question, I want to go into some of the questions that you all have had on the group. So we'll break it up into two parts. So the first part, we'll do the cost side. One of the questions we get asked a lot, and you see the conversations go, is what are some of the costs that I need to be aware of if I'm running an RV park? Like what is everybody's like costs? Like what do you see as like these are the main costs you have operating the park? What will those be?
In continuing operations, it's a lot of utility costs.
Okay.
I always hear issues about cable and Wi-Fi. Those are ever-changing costs, and it becomes more and more expensive to meet the customer's expectations.
Okay.
Amenities are another really big cost if you've got a pool. Insurance costs that go along with that. I look at costs in a lot of ways, and even merchant fees. I hear a lot of people say, oh, my merchant fees are so expensive. But in reality, at worst, they're probably 3% of your revenue. It's not that big of a deal. Yes, we want to cut costs, but most people lose the big picture idea, how much effort they put into saving costs.
That's
if
the
they
point,
would take
yeah.
that effort and put it into growing revenue instead, it would probably be a lot more beneficial to them.
So, and we were having this conversation before this, and you were talking about the merchant costs, and there was actually that conversation going on in the group like 2 days ago about, I only take cash and check, and your opinion on that subject is?
You take my money anyway, I'll give it to you.
So anyway, are you a fan of Bitcoin?
I don't think that comes into play on the average population of the campground world yet. But someday I'll tell you to take that when it becomes
as long as it's a valued form of payment, you say
sure.
take it. So.
Right. I've run into a lot of cases, parks and retailers in general. Sometimes they don't take American Express. It costs a little more. Yes, it does. But raise your rates. Accommodate that additional cost and roll it into your rate. Take people's money any way they want to give it to you. Make it as easy as possible for them to give you money.
Raising rates it's probably the most delicate thing that, at least in my role, because at CampgroundViews we serve two audiences, right? We serve the campers and RVers, and we're campers and RVers ourselves, right? And then we also want to see parks succeed. And in that role, even though I don't like it because it's going to cost me more, I see the advantage of having parks starting to raise their rates because, and I think you'll agree with this, if they're raising their rates, unless they're just pocketing all the cash, they're likely putting some of that money back into the park, improvements, amenities. Is that what you see too?
Yeah, I do. I think that the campgrounds, especially ones that have been around a long time, underestimate the value that the consumer sees in their park.
Well, that's a good point. So they're underestimating the actual value of what they're providing.
How many times have you seen a $300,000 coach pull in, and they just paid $40 to spend the night?
Yeah. Well, one of the arguments that some of our operators will say is, well, if I go to $45 a night, then I'm going to go stay at the Walmart.
Maybe they don't value the park enough, and maybe they should, so that you can make way for somebody else who is willing to pay that.
That's a good point.
I always tell people to watch, because the lower you price, you may be kind of scraping the bottom, and you're missing the boat on the people who are willing to pay you a lot more for a nicer park and a better experience. I honestly see sometimes where parks are, if they're in the $25–30 range, I sometimes say, man, that must be kind of run down. It doesn't feel like they might be up to my expectations. I'm not a camping snob, but when I get there, I want the electric to work. I want to have a nice hookup.
Yeah.
I want to have a decently level spot. I don't want to be in a mud puddle somewhere in the back.
That's a good point. So, and I guess that goes to, the type of guests that they want. I mean, because
Exactly.
on the flip side, there's an argument to be made. And I don't know if you have clients or you work with seasonal parks that have seasonal guests. I mean, the advantage with the seasonal guests is you're charging a flat rate for 6 months, and it's guaranteed income, right?
Right.
And if you have a seasonal park, there's a waiting list a mile long of people trying to get into that because of that flat rate, the low cost.
Right.
So, would you agree that there is an advantage for a seasonal park, or I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
There's an advantage in that you get that guaranteed revenue, but you really have to be careful that you're not locking out people who would have paid by a nightly site, because they're going to pay a lot higher in a month than that monthly site with a pretty deep discount.
Interesting.
So I've run into parks who had a lot of seasonal who are starting to shy away from that and saying, look, those people are taking my capacity that I could sell to nightly folks or people who are going to stay 3 or 4 days with us, who will pay a lot more, and maybe that site is empty on a Wednesday and Thursday. But did they collect more revenue from the site? And if the site was empty, they probably didn't have to pay any utility costs either. So maybe even cheaper to operate that site, and the profit is much higher because of that.
That's a very good point. Okay,
And
so
especially with the number of RVs on the market now, we've seen this tremendous expansion in RVs, and we're now having a lot more capacity issues in places there didn't used to be that case.
Well, there's this battle going on between, I call them the old school campers. They're used to paying $30 a night, right?
Right.
You know those guys and gals that they've been camping for 25 years, and a campsite should never be more than $30 a night. And we're seeing this shift. Like I call them the second wave baby boomers who are coming out now, and they're the ones buying rigs now. But I think many of you would agree, those folks that are just buying their first RV now, they have no expectation on price because they're grounded in the price of a hotel, right?
I was going to say, they're used to paying $100
$150
a night
yeah.
or $150 a night for a hotel. And now you're giving them the opportunity to have this great new experience with their family and be outdoors. They're not as price conscious as those folks that you're used to dealing with. And the biggest mistake that I see parks make is when they do hear that person who wants the $25 a night site
and they listen to them. They
say, oh, I can't raise it.
I can't raise it. Well, that's the number one objection, and you can comment below, but we see that objection over and over again where if I raise my rates, my existing customers will complain, and I don't want to deal with that complaint. Right?
Yeah.
What would your feedback be for folks who are concerned about that?
Usually I'm seeing that they take the one complaint they had, even though 10 other people didn't complain, and they're focused on that one negative result. Look at your capacity. Look at the experience that your guests are having. If you have a Halloween weekend that's just tremendously booked out, it's booking out a year in advance, you can raise the prices. We look more to a dynamic pricing model for that, and that helps you accommodate. You do have places where you have a cheap rate.
You just said a 4-letter word. Dynamic pricing model.
Yeah.
Well, that was a 3-word. But anyways, point being is a lot of folks will be like, dynamic pricing, that's not good. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody yesterday about dynamic pricing. They were saying, yeah, our problem isn't occupancy on weekends. We're busy on weekends. Our problem is during the week. And I said, well, you should have some dynamic pricing. They were like, oh my God, I'm not going to raise my rates. And I'm like, no, dynamic pricing goes both ways.
Right.
Drop your prices during the weekend. Yeah. Okay. So that brought up another question. You're saying that what is the ideal occupancy for a campground or RV park? Because if you're running at 100%, clearly you're not charging.
Right.
Okay, so give us a number that they should be targeting as like an ideal occupancy, or how should they do that?
It depends on seasons, first off, but I would say if I just had to lay one number on the table, probably about 75 to 80%.
And that would be like your annual occupancy rate, 75, 80%.
Because if you go much above that, that tells you need to expand or raise prices because you're not going to have enough to fulfill the capacity when you are going to be busy. You won't be able to take those last-minute reservations because you won't have any rooms. And those last-minute reservations should be the highest price reservation you take.
Really? So
You book
okay.
an airplane 2 days before you got to go someplace. You
Wow.
know you're going to pay more.
So that's a good point. Okay, so say somebody's running at 80% occupancy, and this weekend they have 5 extra sites available, and their rate's $45 a night. Are you saying that with dynamic pricing, those rates should be $50 a night? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, if
Okay.
you have somebody calls today and says, I got to get there tonight.
How much is it?
Crazy.
And you say $55.
Yeah. If you use a good point of sale system and an online reservation system, it's going to guide you through those so you don't have to make a judgment call or depend on your employees to make those calls, because they'll go soft on it and they'll go low.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's like,
let that help you.
you know, that's a good point. And this is, if I can throw anything in here, because we see it on the marketing side, one of the craziest things I ever see is you call into a park to make a reservation, and you say, hey, I want to be there for a week, for example. What's the weekly rate? Well, the weekly rate is $250 for the week. But do you have Good Sam? Now, I didn't say I had Good Sam.
Oh, yeah.
The person on the phone offered me a discount.
Can I give you a discount?
Yeah, can I give you
money?
Can I give you money? It's insane. So it sounds like what you're talking about is there's systems you can put in place to kind of help automate this, and that's actually a good point, because I hadn't thought about that. That if you kind of maybe remove your emotions out of it a little bit, is that kind of the key?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The emotions that people feel, they feel rejected if somebody says their price is too high. And in reality, they should learn that when they hear those words from somebody that your price is too high, if you're not hearing that at all, you're way too low. You should have people who will not pay your price. That's okay. And people need to understand that is okay. As much as we don't want to hear it, camping is a luxury. It is not a necessity of life. People are worried about the prices of necessities, and they feel like people should be deserving to have food and things like that that are a necessity. Camping is not a necessity, as much as we love it.
Well, but then on the flip side, and I can hear the argument coming from the phone right now on that as well, but I have a lot of people who live here. You know, and so there's parks out there that people live at. That's a different market, though, right?
That's a very different component. Okay. And when we start crossing the line into more of a long-term guest in a park, you run into different considerations. And most of the time, those lock in a little bit more where you can do a little less or be a little less creative. But nevertheless, they should always have a price increase annually.
Always have a price increase.
If you don't, you've got a lot of ground to make up, and then it becomes a really hard thing to make up the pricing difference. If you were going to raise it 5% a year, for 3 years you didn't raise it. You said, that's too scary, I can't do that. Well, now, 3 years from now, you've got to raise your rates 15% to be competitive. Right. That is a hard pill to swallow.
Well, and say in that model, so you didn't raise your rates. 3 years from now, you go to sell the park.
Oh, you devalued it.
You devalued it because you know that'll be another question. There's some people on there thinking about, you know, what do I do long term? Part of the value, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Part of the value of your park is the land, but more important is the fact that you're running a business on it, and it's based upon that financial cash flow. And so that goes 2 ways, right? There's some, not a lot, not as many as in the past, but there's some people that get paid cash and check, and that never hits the business bank account. Yeah. So the bank, you know, the business isn't making...
They're cheating themselves in the long run.
Right.
Right.
Okay, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got you on the costs. We got utilities and operations and all those type of costs. Mm-hmm. What main line items should they have, or would you see a successful park having on the income side?
Well, I like to see that they take advantage of every opportunity they can with their guests. A lot of people bypass some really easy things they can do with revenue.
Wait, easy money here.
Easy money.
Easy money,
right.
Okay.
One thing that we're seeing a big trend of is site lock fees.
Yeah.
So to be able to choose which site you want to be in a park, people are willing to pay for that. I've just recently heard from a reservation system that when offered a site lock fee, 40% of the people are accepting.
Whoa.
So they're paying $10 to $15 a night more to pick which particular site they're going to be in.
They're really seeing that high of a number?
That was their comment, yeah.
So if they're seeing that high of it, so would that, I'm thinking from your finance side, marketing. Usually marketing and finance don't get along very well, so this is a good conversation. But like, so when I hear that, I'm thinking that if somebody's willing to pay 10 or 15 bucks more a night, that means you're underpriced, doesn't it? Isn't that what that would say?
These fears of overpricing are, in a lot of cases, are made up fears in the owner's mind. They don't want to hear a negative response. But in reality, they should be happy to hear a negative response sometimes. That means you're getting closer to the sweet spot of pricing. And I look at pricing like supply and demand. There's always that teeter-totter you got to ride. If you price too high, you'll have a lot of supply because people won't buy. But as you lower the price and as you start to meet demand and make that teeter-totter really come into balance, you will see it. In that some people will say, no, it's too high. The best response you want to get is, ooh, it's kind of high. But they take out their credit card and hand it to you anyhow. That's when you've hit the sweet spot of pricing. You got to make sure, if you don't hear any complaints, you're way too low. And the market is telling you that they're willing to pay more with these sites like these. They're a voluntary price increase, and people want to pay you.
People are willing to pay for it. You know, that's a really good point, because on the flip side of that, we see a lot of, and we've been getting a lot of people recently that they're not people, they're large investment groups that are buying up parks, like, and they're coming in, they're buying up these parks because they can buy them, do some minor improvements. We got a great interview that's coming out here in a little bit that you'll see from one of the biggest owners of mobile home parks in the nation. So that'll be a good interview. And he talks a bit about this, but the amount of money that they put into the park once they buy it is so negligible. It's just, maybe it's one of those things where if you've been running the park for 10 years, you've been going there every day, you don't notice that the banister hasn't been painted, right? You don't notice the little things where somebody with a fresh set of eyes comes in and says, you know, I'm going to put a coat of paint on that and fix it. And that would be the way to overcome that, ooh, it's a little bit high, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Free
absolutely.
ice cream cone at check-in.
Yeah,
you
and
know,
we
stuff like
talked
that.
a lot today about loyalty programs. And everybody looked at me with a mad stare when I said loyalty programs because they thought I meant a discount. That's the only thing they related to a loyalty program.
Okay.
I would never give a discount and make people ask for it or have some reason.
Or reason for discounts, yeah.
But the loyalty program is to let them have something more than they thought they were going to get. And usually it's a very negligible cost. If you gave them a free ice cream cone, what's that cost you as a parking? Hardly anything. But the value to the consumer is very high in comparison to your costs.
Yeah.
They're figuring they would have had to pay $3 for that.
Yeah.
And look at the smile on their kid's face.
Yeah. We know there's a park in Montana. It's the 7th Calvary. It's over by where Custer's Last Stand was. There's an RV park there right off the interstate. You have to get off the interstate, drive down a paved road, and then a half mile up this really dusty dirt road to get to it. So by the time you get there, you're like, my rig is dirty, my truck is dirty, I'm pissed off. And you walk into the office, and they greet you with a hello, here's an ice cream. That's literally how they greet you. And I remember to this day, you know, and I've visited 5,000 parks. And I remember that place because I walked in and they gave me an ice cream cone as a welcome.
They just deflated all of your ride for the day
and you're right.
made you happy.
It was an expensive park. I didn't care. Like,
you get $100.
Yeah, I didn't. That's a very good point. Okay, so we've just made everybody a bunch of money. We expect dividends on this, by the way. You can deposit them to. So if they want to, so now they're thinking, okay, we talked about the income side, and you were talking about loyalty programs and other ways to capture potential revenue from guests.
Yes.
And it's not. Let's talk about, because again, this whole conversation, I think it gets a lot of people nervous because we're talking about money, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the fear, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it's going to cost money, because a lot of folks view it from the consumer side, right? They're like, well, if I was that person, I wouldn't buy that, or I wouldn't pay for it, right? Mm-hmm. So let's flip it around a little bit. What are some of the things you've seen on the income side that drives a ton of value into the guest experience? What are your secrets on those?
A lot of times it's really simple things. You mentioned earlier taking a look at things that you see every day. You don't even see them anymore. Have some outsiders come in. Have some people you know come in who are willing to give you some critical comments.
Interesting.
And look at what's going on. I was in a park, had a beautiful mountain range behind the pool. Did an old truck that wasn't running anymore. It was parked by the fence. Oh. All I did, every picture I took of that mountain range, I saw that stinking truck, broke down truck. how much would it have taken for them to move that truck out of the way, hide that thing somewhere else, or take it to the dump even? But that is a memory that somebody formed. And a lot of these things are not high value or high dollar amount things. They are the experience of your guest. And because they live in that park and see it every day, sometimes they miss the obvious things that could increase an experience for a guest.
Interesting.
You know, we've even seen one of the parks we were at had photo stations. You go out and take a picture with little things throughout the park, or you do a scavenger hunt for the kids.
Yeah.
So many of those things, they just don't cost much. They take
Yeah.
a little bit of time to put them together. But especially, I'll tell you, if you got kids in your park, do some things to get those kids happy. If the kids are happy, mom and dad are happy.
Good point.
And those things really add a lot of value, and the kids will remember it, talk about it, and that makes mom and dad remember it too.
Amazing. So if they want to, obviously Donna's been a member of this group. She engages regularly. You see her commenting many times below and in the different comments that we've had on here. How else can they engage with you and kind of have a conversation with you?
Sure. My email is pretty easy. Donna at CampgroundAccounting.com. Also visit our website. I routinely do some blogs there as well that can be some helpful topics. It's CampgroundAccounting.com.
CampgroundAccounting.com. When you do those blogs, feel free to post them, like a link to them on the group. Yeah. So because it's not a sales letter; it's helping people, right?
Yeah, we try to look at a little tip or tidbit that might help any campground owner to take advantage of something, or to make sure they're doing the little things that can really put them over the edge.
Very cool. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Let us know. We tried this out here at the show, and if you like it, we'll do a lot more of these. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment before. Don will be on there. I'll be on there in a little bit, and happy to respond to them. We're a pleasure to have you as part of this group. This group is actually making a lot of waves. People know about it because of you. I mean, you're having such amazing conversations and helping one another. So thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.